Hey guys, Mr. Catlin here with your homework. We're working on the third page, lesson 7. I think lesson 7 extends to the back of the page too. So I might do both of these in this video. All right. So let's jump right in. Number 1, in a video game, a character is healed at a constant rate as long as they're standing in a certain circle. So we're going to complete the table, and assuming that this is a constant of proportionality table. So there's a constant rate. So we're doing a little bit of review of things that we've done in the past. So to find our constant of proportionality, we need to divide 100 by 4. That's easy. That's 25. So we know that they're multiplying by 25 to get over here. 10 times 25 is 250. If I have 3 sets of 25, that's 75. So to come back the other direction, I would need to simply divide by 25. Now, 25 will go into 100 4 times, and there's 10 100ths and 1,000. So 4 times 10, this is going to be 40. All right. And all we had to do is complete the table. So easy stuff. Number 2, how much higher is 500 than 400? All right. I think that's a mental one. That is 100 meters higher. So this one is 100 meters. How much higher is 500 than negative 400? You could sketch a number line for that. Here is 0. Here is 500. Here is 400, negative 400. The distance between the two is 500 plus 400 in absolute value. So that one would be 900 more meters. What is the change in elevation from here to here? We did these problems on Wednesday of this week. This is a subtraction problem. Start with where you end up and subtract with where you began. And so if you do that subtraction, you would notice that you add the opposite. When you add the opposite, you're going to have a negative 8,500. And since the signs are different, you're going to subtract 8,500 minus 3,400. And that is 0, 0, 1, and 5. So you get a 5,100 difference. The negatives win. So this was a drop of down 5,100 and 5,100 meters. What's the change of elevation here between that number and this number? This problem would set up as negative 300 minus 8,500. And when you add the opposite here to the negative 8,500 that you have, you'll notice that you're both negative, and so you need to add together their changes, because if you're going from this elevation to that one, you're actually going all of that distance plus an extra 300. So you're really going down 8,800 meters. All right. A number line can help it show that, but I like to just do the subtraction, and that would be a lot of numbers on that number line, really big numbers there. How much higher is negative 200 than 450 meters? Well, it's not higher, so our answer is not going to be positive here. If you think about it on the number line, okay, here's 0, here's negative 200, and here's 450, right? So this number is not higher, right? But their distance apart from each other is 200 to get to there, and another 450 to get the rest of the way. So the distance is 650. But since the way they phrased it, how much higher? It wouldn't be 650 meters higher. It would be negative 650 meters higher, because technically it's lower. So we're going to write negative 650 meters there. All right, third one there. The table shows 4 transactions and the resulting account balance in the bank account, except some numbers are missing. Fill in the missing numbers. All right, so this was on your homework last week. We haven't really talked about this in class much, but the transaction would be like positive if you're putting money in, and it would be negative if you're taking money out. Okay, so the reason why this went from 360 to there was because they were just subtracting that minus your 2250 that you took out from this transaction. So that's why it dropped there. So now you're sitting at 337.50, and something happened to drop it down to here. So they subtracted some mystery number to end up at 182.35. So the question is, if they subtract to get there, what could you do with mystery number Or what could you do with these two numbers to find out what the mystery number is? And that would just be their difference. So you need to do 337.50 minus 182.35. You got to do a little borrowing along the way. 5, 1, 5. You got to borrow from the 2 or from the 3 there. Make that 13. Count up. That's 5 and 1. So really, they spent $155.15 for it to drop down to that point. And then there was another change that got us from here to here. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because they spent all of the money in the account, right? And $41.40 extra. So technically, you're going to take these two numbers here and add them together to find out how much they spent, right? So 7, 3, 12, carry the 1, that's 2. So they spent, this is going to be negative because it's spending, 200. They wrote a check for this much, and that landed them down here in this amount. And that's that page. Let me go ahead to the last page, and we'll finish this up for the homework. We'll do this last page together too. Okay, so on the last page, we have this departure problem. On the integer practice, you can use a calculator to check yourself there. I'm just going to do this last problem, and then we'll be done. Okay, so the departure from the average is the difference between the actual amount of rain and the average amount of rain for a given month. Okay, so it's difference. It's a subtraction between actual, I'm going to write this down, actual minus average. All right, this is how we find average. And this is how we find the departure. I'm just going to call it depart. Is found by doing actual rainfall minus the average rainfall. Okay, so the historical average for rainfall in Albuquerque for June, July, and August is shown in the table. These are averages. Okay, now last June, only 0.17 inches of rainfall fell all month. What is the difference between the average rainfall and the actual? So that would be, this is for June. Okay, the average was 0.67, and we are subtracting the actual, which was 0.17. And that is simply going to be 0.5. Okay, so the departure was they were a half inch off, right? So that's the departure is 0.5. All right, the departure from the average rainfall for last July was negative 0.36. So it's positive when they're under. So when it's negative, that means that they probably went over the average. So what I would do to find this answer is simply 1.5 plus 0.36. So I would get 6, I would get 8, and 1. So it looks like last July, 1.86 inches fell. So that would be there. How much rain would have to fall in August so that the total amount of rain equals the average rainfall for these 3 months? What would the departure from the average be in August in this situation? So how much rain would we have to have in August so that the total amount of rain equals the average rainfall for the 3 months? Okay, so if we add up all of the averages, 67, 1.5, 1.57. All right, if we add all those up, we would get this number, 1617, 3. So this would be total for all the 3 months, right? So that's the total amount of rain for those 3 months. How much rain would have to fall in August? Well, right now we know that it was 1.86 plus the 17 that was in June. This is June. This is July. So we need mystery number to add up to equal the same as what would the departure from the average? I don't know. We want it to be the same as the average. So we want it to equal 3.74. So we would simply need to add these two together and take away from 3.75. So I'm going to add 17 to this. That would give me 93. So 2.03 taken away from 3.75. Because if I If I find their difference, that's going to tell me how much more I need in August for it to add up to that same average. So 271. All right. So I need it to rain this much, right? So 1.72 in August would give me the same average. Oh, did I write 5 there? That's supposed to be a 4, isn't it? And I put a 4 there. So that would be, sorry, this would be 1. And this would be a 4. Sorry about that. So that makes this, we need 1.71 inches in August. Now, if it rains 1.71 inches in August, then that means that we went over what it was before. So we're going to have a negative difference between these two. And the negative difference would be whatever their separation is. So 1.71 minus 1.57. We got to borrow there. Make that an 11. 4. 6 minus 5 is 1. So we would have negative 0.14 departure. And what was, so how much rain would it have to fall in August? That would be 1.71. So this is 1.71. And that would put us 14 hundredths negative departure. So we're over that much in August. That problem right there, I'll tell you what, is just kind of all over the place. It wasn't hard math, but you had to kind of bounce around on different sides of the negative and the positive for that one. So those are your answers there for that one. And like I said, for the integer practice at the bottom, try it without the calculator and then check yourself with the calculator to see if you're doing all of those right. There's some addition, there's some subtraction, just a little integer practice for you there. All right, have a good one.